In all of Jujutsu Kaisen, there is one character that stands far above the rest. He is a god among men, an intricately written masterpiece of depth and awesomeness. Honestly, it's hard to think of a single anime character more popular and loved than 8-grip sword divergent sealer divine general Mahoraga. He was truly magnificent, and I will never forget him for as long as oh, this is such a dumb intro, bro, I can't be arsed. Sorry about that. Today, we are going to be answering one of the oldest questions in all of Jujutsu Kaisen. Who can actually beat Mahoraga? Basically, I'm gonna go through every single sorcerer that I believe could beat Mahoraga and then explain why. To make it fair, I will show 2 different outcomes per sorcerer. One where they know about Mahoraga's adaptation, and one where they don't. After all, Mahoraga is meant to be a Zenin clan secret known only to a select few outside of it, like Gojo and the other clan heads. Now listen up, because this is important. If this video can get 1,000 likes, I will finally make a part 2 of my Heian era flashbacks video, but I will make it about the entirety of Kenjaku's 1,000-year voyage. Also, please subscribe. Anyway, let's get right into it. Okay, to start off, we have Gojo versus Mahoraga and Sukuna versus Mahoraga. Does Gojo beat him with information? Yes. Does Gojo beat him without information? Yes. Does the exact same thing apply to Sukuna? Yes. Should I move on so you don't all get bored and then leave? Probably. Anyway, the first non-Gojo and Sukuna opponent that I am placing against Mahoraga is, of course, the prodigy of the modern era. The man stated to hit harder than Goku, and the man who can survive a punch from Saitama. It is Yuta Okkotsu. If you watch my videos, then you already know that I am a massive Yuta glazer, but hopefully you will also know that Yuta obliterates Mahoraga whether I'm a glazer or not. If you disagree, that is totally fine, but I've grown kind of tired of debating recently, so your comments will be responded to exclusively in rice ball ingredients. Long story short though, Okkotsu is literally Mahoraga's perfect counter due to having both variety and one-shot capability. I think Yuta's love beam at full output would one-shot Mahoraga, and that would be that. However, there are so many ways that Yuta could actually go about it. With information about adaptation, Yuta could then instantly seal Mahoraga into either a Jacob's Ladder domain or a Shrine domain. I believe that either of these sure hits will be enough to one-shot him. Especially Jacob's Ladder, since Mahoraga himself is a technique, so it should just be completely shut down. Also, to be clear, Mahoraga will adapt to Yuta's copy techniques, but not to the copy ability itself, since Mahoraga can't adapt to entire curse techniques in one go, only select moves. For example, Mahoraga adapted to Gojo's moves individually instead of Limitless as a whole. He also adapted to Slashes, but not Shrine as a whole, since Sukuna's Flames still worked. I also don't think Mahoraga's Blade of Extermination can actually one-shot Rika, since both Yuta and Rika can output positive energy, which is something that should kill Rika, but doesn't. Perhaps it's because she's more of a Shikigami than a curse, but either way, it does seem that she has some kind of protection from positive energy. Even without knowing about adaptation though, Yuta is just too damn smart, and his kit in Shinjuku is just way too strong for him to lose. Don't forget, even after observing Mahoraga's strength, Yuta thought he could beat Mahoraga and Agito at the same time. Call me a glazer all you want, it won't change the fact that Yuta does mid-diff the entire 10 Shadows technique. Mahoraga's next contender is the special grade sorcerer Yuki Tsukumo. Now, I'm gonna keep this one very simple. If Yuki can land a strong Garuda football to the face, then Mahoraga is fucked. End of story. Kenjaku's special grade spirit of choice literally exploded on the moment of impact, and I imagine the same would go for Mahoraga. After all, Gojo saw Mahoraga with his 6 eyes and then concluded a maximum output red would be enough to exercise him, meaning that purple and Sukuna's flames are actually massively overkill when it comes to exercising Mahoraga. Honestly, I think Yuki would open with a strong Garuda football or just go straight to a domain expansion, since she doesn't really care for fighting and will sense that Mahoraga is crazy strong. With information about adaptation, she'll probably just pop her domain straight away, effortlessly deleting Mahoraga. However, with no information about its adaptation, then she is completely f***ed unless she does go for that Garuda football straight away. Overall though, if these two were to fight, my money would be firmly on Yuki. She is literally a one-shot sorcerer, that's kind of her whole thing. Maharaga's next opponent is going to be Kenjaku, but also Geto, because the main tool in beating him is Curse Spirit Manipulation. Now, I'm gonna keep it real with you guys. Kenjaku would absolutely embarrass Mahoraga with his full kit. I'm not even gonna discuss what would happen if Kenjaku didn't know about Maharaga's adaptation, because there is literally no way that this 1,000-year-old man didn't know from all of his experience and time spent as the Kamo clan head. And just like with Yuta, Curse Spirit Manipulation is a great technique for facing Mahoraga purely due to the massive variety and access to an easy one-shot attack. However, Mahoraga does have the Blade of Extermination, which outputs positive energy, meaning that most spirits are just going to get one-shot, which means that we're left with only one real option: Maximum Uzumaki. You lot do not understand how unbelievably broken Maximum Uzumaki really is. I mean, sure, Geto was just a bum who could only use basic Curse Spirit Summoning and Maximum Uzumaki, but Kenjaku learned to extract techniques and use them once for himself in addition to a minimum Uzumaki. Maximum Uzumaki is the move that we're gonna need to one-shot Mahoraga though, so that's what I'm gonna talk about now. It is a move that literally bypasses the normal limitations of a sorcerer's output, and this is because it combines the cursed energy of all the user's cursed spirits and then turns it into a beam of cursed energy. Ryu's Granite Blast set the record for highest recorded output in history, but in theory, Maximum Uzumaki can just completely obliterate that record, and this is because it uses the cursed energy of cursed spirits instead of the user's own cursed energy, and that of course means that normal output limitations that apply to that sorcerer won't actually apply here. Kenjaku definitely has enough cursed spirit stocked up to scare Mahoraga so bad that he starts screaming for Sukuna to save him. If you add Technique Extraction, Anti-Gravity, Kenjaku's Domain, and his IQ to this, and it's pretty much done for Mahoraga. In Geto's case though, it's a lot more simple. If he uses Uzumaki straight away, he will probably win. If he doesn't use Uzumaki straight away, then his bum ass will lose. And god, it's so rare that I actually get to glaze Kenjaku because of his whole Yuta rivalry. Damn, that felt good. Man, I love Kenny so much. He's so cool. Anyway though, Mahoraga's next executioner is the Heian goddess herself, Yorozu. And just like with Kenjaku, I so rarely get to glaze my absolute goat Yorozu, so I'm gonna enjoy this so much. First of all, we have already seen how Mahoraga's adaptation interacts with construction, and unfortunately the result of that interaction makes no sense. Right, think about it, okay? Mahoraga adapted to Infinity, Blue, and Red, but not Purple. He also adapted to Shrine Slashes, but not Shrine's Flames. So how the did Mahoraga adapt to Perfect Sphere and Threefold Affliction by interacting with completely different applications of construction? Like, I get it, Sukuna bore the burden and tanked attacks from Yorozu's liquid metal to allow Mahoraga to adapt. But how the did that lead to him adapting to the entire construction curse technique instead of just those applications? By that logic, he should have adapted to Purple as well. I mean, Purple is literally just Red and Blue smashed together, but Mahoraga still died to it despite having adapted to both Red and Blue. But he can somehow survive and destroy what could be the strongest attack in all of Jujutsu Kaisen just by adapting to some strands of liquid metal. Like, what? Sorry, I know that was way off topic, but it really needed saying. Anyway, assuming that Yorozu knows about adaptation, my goddess will absolutely rail Mahoraga with a Perfect Sphere Domain sure hit. And then he literally has no chance of surviving that. I'm sorry, it's infinite pressure, you're done. Genuinely, Yorozu would fuck Mahoraga harder than Jin fucked Kenjaku, and no, that is not an overstatement. Without any information about adaptation though, I would say that Perfect Sphere still means Yorozu wins, but apparently that's not how that works. So in conclusion, fuck what Gege wrote, he was clearly just a bias agenda pusher, and I'm gonna ignore what he says. Yorozu slams with or without information, suck it. Anyway, it's finally time to discuss a very weird and interesting matchup, which is Mahoraga versus Ryu Ishigori. Now, straight off the bat, you need to calm the fuck down and just chill out and listen, okay? No, Granite Blast will not one-shot Mahoraga, that's not what I'm saying, just cool it, alright? Don't get me wrong, Ryu Ishigori is a criminally underrated sorcerer and is number 10 in my top 10 strongest sorcerers list. But Granite Blast definitely has no chance of one-shotting Mahoraga after seeing Yuta just block that shit with only literally one hand. So I bet you're wondering, Allons, why is he on the list then? Well, it's because I recently came to the realization that Mahoraga may not be able to adapt to Ryu at all. At the end of the day, Ryu's whole thing is simply about outputting cursed energy in its raw form. And unfortunately for Big Raga, there is one thing we know he definitely cannot adapt to. Mahoraga cannot adapt to cursed energy itself. Otherwise, he would be able to adapt to Sukuna's and Gojo's entire kit very early on. Not to mention, it would cause a sort of paradox because he is a result of cursed energy but would adapt to the thing that created him, which doesn't make any sense. And since Ryu Ishigori's attacks are literally just pure cursed energy in its raw form, it follows that Mahoraga won't be able to adapt to it. So Ryu should just be able to keep beating Mahoraga down with his blasts and his insane physical stats. And by that I mean he has Yuta and Yuji level physical stats. They are genuinely insane. Do not sleep on Ryu, okay? Obviously, information is irrelevant here because we're going off the argument that Mahoraga can't adapt to any of Ryu's attacks anyway. And then Ryu would eventually launch his domain, which is likely just a massive boosted blast that I imagine would annihilate Mahoraga after he's taken a bit of a beating. I know many of you will disagree with this take, but as always, I don't give a shit. Now though, I think it's time we talk about what might be the most interesting interaction in all of Jujutsu Kaisen: Mahoraga versus Takaba. Again, I think it's safe to say that information is completely irrelevant here because Takaba is a dumbass anyway. The interaction in question though is the comedian technique versus Mahoraga's adaptation and which one would truly take priority. I mean, comedian is literally stated to be the strongest curse technique in the series and it does just straight up manipulate reality. So like, will Mahoraga adapt to comedian or will comedian straight up override the adaptation? Imagine, for the sake of entertainment, that Mahoraga has already adapted to comedian, and now imagine that Takaba makes a joke about resetting the adaptation. Will the adaptation prevent this from happening, or will making jokes about removing the adaptation overrule it and actually work? I'm not gonna lie, if it comes to what I think, well, I'm gonna say that the curse technique that literally manipulates reality will probably win here. Either way, Takaba can most definitely win, but to be honest, I just wanted to talk about that weird interaction and see what you guys have to say about it. Anyway, to wrap this shit up, I'm gonna do a quick fire list of all the others that I think can beat Mahoraga, but there isn't much to say about it. I mean, first of all, Toji Fushiguro with Inverted Spear of Heaven would send Mahoraga crying back to his mummy Megumi. I don't know why there's even a debate about this at all. Mahoraga is a technique, so anything that causes the force release of a technique will cause Mahoraga to despawn. Anyway, Miguel with the Black Rope and Angel with Jacob's Ladder should be able to do the exact same thing, but the Black Rope did get Gojo'd and Angel is a grade 9 bum, so maybe not, I don't know. And then finally, there is Hiromi Higuruma, who should just force Mahoraga to despawn in his domain, because cursed energy and cursed techniques are completely banned in there. If he catches the summoner in the domain too, then he can probably confiscate the Ten Shadows technique and prevent him being summoned again. And to be very clear, yes, I deliberately did not put Yuji, Maki, Hakari, Kashimo, Urame, Mahito, Kashimo, or Kashimo on this list. Why, you ask? Well, it's because I don't think they can beat Mahoraga. Duh, why the fuck else wouldn't I include them? There's no point going to the comments and being like, oh, where's Yuji? I didn't just forget about him, he's not here. I don't think he can do it. Anyway, final honorable mention goes to Todo, I guess, because even though Todo can't beat Mahoraga, I deadass don't think Mahoraga can beat Todo either. And I also just like glazing Todo at the moment, so yeah, there you go. Make sure to like and subscribe if you want to see those Kenjaku flashbacks. Feel free to join the Discord and follow me on Twitter, links below. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you in a bit.